Getting to be late March, and a lot of people are itching to get out on the water. Musky seasons are going to be opening up. Some people, if you're in the south, have already been out. Of course, I was out limitedly this winter. My tackle's in decent shape, but there's some things you can do to get ready. Make sure you're ready to go when the musky season gets going, and you want to get out on the water and be ready to catch these fish. So, first off, we're going to talk about hook sharpening. On my videos, a lot of the time you'll see me sharpening with the Dremel tool. This is a Manahang 10. It's fresh out of the box. It's one of my go-to lures in the atomic carp color here. But, the hooks, no hooks out of the box are sharp. These are these come with 6/0 VMC O'Shaughnessy treble hooks. An excellent hook, a very hard hook, consistent. The shape is excellent. They hook very well, but they do need to have an edge put on them. So what I do is if I'm out in the boat, I just wear my sunglasses. But if I'm in my workshop, I definitely will wear some safety glasses to keep the metal filings from going in my eyes, because I do use a Dremel tool, which is a rotary tool, and pieces of the bit and pieces of steel will come flying off the lure, and you don't want them in your eyes. So, first step. So I have my Dremel tool. I have my battery pack. This is a simple Dremel mini mite tool. You can get them at Walmart for just under $20. I wouldn't invest in anything more expensive than that, because you're going to have, it's going to be out in the boat. Chances are it's going to get ruined eventually, so why spend any more money? They will absorb some water and you can dry them out and they'll work pretty well. If you do it too many times, you'll start to have some performance issues. The bit I have in there is a Dremel 952. This you may be able to get at the Walmart where you purchase your mini mite. Some of them will have a selection of bits, some of the Walmart stores will not. If you can't find it at the Walmart, any Home Depot, hardware store, Lowe's, Menards, whatever, what have you, will have a selection of Dremel bits. And this is the Dremel 952 grinding stone. It's cone shaped. It'll help you get the contour of the hook a little bit better. Now, basically, when I'm out in the boat, I have my lure in my left hand, I have my Dremel tool in my right hand. This has a high and a low setting. I pretty much just go to the low setting. The high setting will go faster, but it also heats the steel up a little bit too hot, and I get concerned about some strength issues with the steel being heated that hot. So I'll go on the low setting. It'll also help me keep from making errors. Okay? So I start off by turning this on low. I'll start with the front hook, and I will hold my hand on the hook and hold the hook firmly to the lure like this, so that I have a steady working platform. And I will then continue. I'll get my face right in there so I can really see what I'm doing, and I will really examine closely what I'm doing as I'm doing it, so that I make sure that I know that I have a good point on my hook. So first off, I'll do the bottom. Grind a little bit off the bottom. I'm going to do a 4-sided point. A lot of people do the 3, I do the 4 with the Dremel. It just makes it easier to get to a good sharp point. And I basically just do about the first 1/8 to 1/4 inch of the tip, so that you're not making the whole tip too thin and weakening it. And I hold the bit parallel to the hook point. For the top, for the sides, and then for the bottom I hold the bit perpendicular. And I'll touch up the bottom again. Now, you keep going around and touching it up little by little until your point is exactly where you want it to be. Now I'm going to turn this off for a second. Nope. And you want that hook, you graze your... See, I'm just lightly touching that and my skin's just sticking right to it. You want that tip to stick right into your finger. I mean, don't jam it on there for safety's sake and all, but, You want your skin to stick, and that's exactly what it's going to do when the muskie hits that lure. As soon as that fish makes contact with that point's going to stick to that fish. And once that point is stuck to that fish, when you go to set the hook, it's going to drive it right into place. That initial contact and that stickiness of that point makes contact with the fish, it sticks into place, you feel that strike, and you drive that hook in with the hook set, and it stays exactly where it's supposed to be. So I will repeat, I will go all the way around the lure, I'll then rotate it, and I'll start back up again. And that hook is perfect. And eventually, you'll get to where you could do it that quickly. And that edge is sharp, it's smooth, it's precise. If you magnified that 200 times, it would look like a very nice, clean point. And then I will move to the back once I get the third hook point sharpened on there. For time's sake, I'll just move to the back. But I hold the lure like this. And I go in, start on the bottom, get the side. I'm kind of turning this so everybody can see. And I'll just keep kind of going around until it's visibly sharp. If you go around and anything looks flat about that point, trust me, it is. You just want to keep going around until every side brings it to that perfect point. And when you go to check it, just the slightest amount of pressure sticks right into the end of your finger. That's what it's going to do in that muskie's mouth. If that muskie comes up alongside it and nudges it with its closed mouth, and that lure sticks to it, you can get the hooks into that fish. So that's what you want out of hook sharpness. There's other things you can do as well in the springtime. You get these hooks sharp. Before you go out, but you got to keep checking these in the boat, because contact with any structure, will cause these hooks to dull. You want to keep up with this so that you don't have dull hooks when the moment of truth comes. You bang these things against the side of the boat. You bang them into any hard surface whatsoever. You got to keep checking them. You hit stiff weeds with them. You got to check them a little bit here and there. Meticulous hook maintenance. It takes a little extra time out there. It can be a pain in the butt, but it will allow you to catch more fish in the long run. So that's hooks. You can look at them before you go out. You got to look at your rods and reels. For instance, your reels. And you should definitely have taken the drag all the way back so the washers for your drags don't wear out. You can tighten up your drags again before you go out. Make sure they're nice and tight. I keep mine locked down. I do most of my fish fighting in free spool. Most people will. If you like your drag backed off a little bit, back it off a little bit. It's all personal preference. I keep mine pretty well locked down, so I make sure I lock it down so when I go to set the hook on the first fish of the year, I don't end up with line coming out and missing the fish, So you've got a reel. Now, unless you're very experienced with taking these things apart and cleaning them, I recommend you don't do it. I don't do it. I don't know about all the parts in these reels. There's so many little parts in these reels, and I learned at a young age that if I try to take them apart and do things with them, I tend to break them. So I use a silicone lubricant. There's little holes, there's little ports in all of these new reels. Little hole, you take your straw, put it up to the hole. If it doesn't go all the way, you just put it to the edge, fill it up. There's a side hole, fill it with a little silicone. You can take the side off your reel. A lot of these have a screw cap on them without having to do anything major. Little bit of silicone. Keeps the gears clean, keeps the dirt out of them. You can have your reels professionally cleaned. It's not a bad idea to keep their function good. When you're putting those caps back on, you got to get the gears to line up just a little bit sometimes. It's not always the easiest thing. Turn the crank a little bit, bring some line out. and your reel's pretty much ready to go. These high quality reels should go for years and years. Mine do, and I really beat them up pretty good, to be honest with you. So that's reels. You know, check your line for nicks. If you look at your line, it doesn't matter if the color's faded, but if it's really starting to get frayed, it needs to be replaced. And then you've got your rods. You know, when you stored your gear in late fall, if you fish into the late fall, things are icy, they're a mess, you kind of just put it away and forget about it and go on with your year and don't think about it much, but you don't want to wait until a week or even a month before the season opens to look at your guides. If your ceramic in your guides is cracked, you'll know it, and it will nick your line, and it can cause premature line wear and lost fish, and you don't want to be breaking off fish, losing lures, harming fish with lures swimming around in their face. So just, you know, visually inspect your ceramics. You know, run a Q-tip through them. If you see where that cotton's catching anywhere, that'll be a spot where you've got a cracked ceramic. Too often I see guys fishing with a guide with the ceramic completely cracked out of it. And that's a bad deal, guys, because if that line wears against that, just the steel frame of that guide, it will break your line. And even a crack in your ceramic can cost you a nice fish. Guys fish tournaments, you don't get a second chance in tournaments, and you know, and everyday angling is, you know, every dollar counts, and in tournaments even more so. So you kind of just got to put all the odds in your favor, make sure everything's ready to go. Check it a few months before the season opens, because then you can bring it into your rod guy to have it fixed, because he's going to be busy that last week before the season and you might not have your rods ready. So there's a few tips for you to take a look at. You're starting to get cabin fever, you want to get the gear out, you want to work on your gear, you're excited, you're anticipating. You know, sit down if you're in your, you know, if you have to do a few of these things in your living room. I have a little fishing room here, if you do it out in your garage, what have you. But get it done, and it'll lead to a much more productive season.